friends, welcome back to my channel. Believe it or not, the end of September is near. I'm starting this video with 9 days left in September, which is not very long. October is right around the corner, and quite frankly, I'm behind, like really behind. As you guys know, I picked out 15 books for my fall TBR. That way it could be about 7 books per month. And guess how many I've read in September? 3. That's right, 3 books. That is all. I am so behind. So here's the plan. I'm going to try to read 3 books in the next couple days, but I'm going to make them all books that are 250 pages or under. That way I can almost guarantee that I will actually finish the book by the time October starts. I just need to really get them done before the end of the month, you know? Now, that won't get me to 7 books, but I'm hoping we can get to 6 books by the end of this video and only be 1 book behind for October. So, what are you still doing sitting here? We gotta go. We gotta get going. Come on. We gotta start reading. I haven't shown you guys my mini pops yet. They're tiny Lord of the Rings characters. This one is Frodo, Gandalf, Aragorn, and Gollum. They're so cute.
Okay, so don't hurt me, but the first book that we're going to be reading is actually not on my fall TBR. And you might ask, KK, didn't you just say that the whole point of this was to get caught up on your fall TBR? Yes it was. But I've been eyeing up this book for a while, and I've been wanting to read it. And it's really short, guys. It's really short. It's only 145 pages long. That's it. It's so little. And compared to the size of other books, the actual book size is very little too. So I thought that we would just fly through it, make it a little warm up, you know, like an appetizer before we jump into the books that are actually in our fall TBR. The book that we're going to be reading first is Animal Farm by George Orwell. Definitely not on the fall TBR. But I mean, look how little this is. It's small. It's as tall as my hand. And it's little. And look. The pages are so narrow and the text is big and the pages are so short. I mean, look. Normal book. Animal Farm. Do you see how small it is? This, I think, justifies my decision to start with a book that is not on my fall TBR. We're still gonna zoom to the other ones. We're gonna get it done. We're gonna get caught up. Everything's fine. We're gonna be on track. But this one's only 145 pages long. And it's so little. Anyway, those are all my justifications for a reading book that is not on my fall TBR. You also might be curious, what are the other books on your fall TBR that are that short? Out of 15 books, did you really choose multiple books that are under 250 pages? And the answer is kind of, yeah. The 2 other books that we're going to be reading in this vlog are technically over 150 pages, but they're just barely over 150 pages. One of them is 157 pages and the other one is 158 pages. So I figured that was good enough. After Animal Farm, I thought that we would go ahead and read Forgotten God by Francis Chan. This one is 157 pages. And the text is pretty big on this one too. So I definitely think that we're gonna fly through. Even though it's a nonfiction, I still feel like that we're gonna be able to fly through this one. And then the last full book that we're going to be reading in this vlog is A Storied Life of A.J. Fikry by Gabrielle Zevin. This one is 158 pages long. So again, it's right there at the 250 page mark. So we're so close, and I'm definitely gonna count it because these are the only ones that I have that are that short. And I need to speed through them. So this will be the last full book that we read. But if we have time, then we're going to read part of the Sherlock Holmes Chunky Boy book. So this chunky Sherlock Holmes book is a collection of short stories. And the first one, which is A Study in Scarlet, is only 120 pages long. So if we have time, then I'm gonna try to also get through A Study in Scarlet as well to start this book because it's chunky. And even though I know I'm probably not gonna finish it in the fall TBR, I'm just going to probably start it in the fall. I figured might as well just go for it. At the beginning, there's 2 longer stories, which is A Study in Scarlet and The Sign of Four. Both of those are about 120-ish pages each. But then after that, there's a bunch of really short stories that are only 20 pages each. So after seeing that and knowing that they're not all 120 page stories that I'll have to get through for this book, it actually gave me a little hope that maybe we will get this done in the fall TBR, because if I can just read a short story or 2 a day, it will be cutting it really close. I bet I could finish this volume in October if I read at least 1 short story a day. Let me count. Okay, so there's 39 stories. So I would have to read one story a day starting right now, which I mean is possible because I'm reading A Study in Scarlet. But the second story is also 120 pages. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see. But I am hopefully going to be reading A Study in Scarlet in this video because it's under 150 pages. And it's on my fall TBR if it's all the qualifications, so I don't see why not. Okay, now that you know all the books that we're going to be reading, let's go ahead and dive into Animal Farm and just see if we can get it knocked out probably this afternoon.
Okay, time for a little bit of an update. Since I've last talked to you guys, I have finished 2 of the books. That is Animal Farm by George Orwell and Forgotten God by Francis Chan. I read both of these books in about 24 hours back to back. They were super quick. I flew right through them. And honestly, both of them were very enjoyable as well. I'm going to give Animal Farm probably a 3-star. If you want to get into classics, I feel like this is a really good place to start. It wasn't my favorite classic that I've ever read, but it is really short. It's to the point. You can breeze through it really quickly. And I personally think George Orwell is a great writer as well. I'm not going to go into a deep dive on this book. There's plenty of people who have done really in-depth synopsis of this book online. But for all purposes of this video, I really enjoyed it, and I definitely think that it was a great book to add to this pile, even though it wasn't necessarily on my fall TBR. The second book is Forgotten God by Francis Chan. I am giving this book a 4-star. I really, really enjoyed it, though I feel like you have to be kind of in the right mindset in order to go in this book and get something out of it. But as you can see by the tabs, I did enjoy it. I'm giving it a 4-star because it wasn't necessarily anything profound. It's just a good reminder about what the Holy Spirit does in our lives and what his purpose is in the Trinity. So yeah, 4 stars. Both books, I don't necessarily have a lot of updates to give you as far as how I liked them. I enjoyed them both, but they're not necessarily books that I am going to put on any recommendations list. So that brings us to our third book, which is The Story Life of A.J. Vickery by Gabrielle Zevin. This book I am so excited to get into. I have heard amazing things about it, and it just seems like a really wholesome read. So we're going to hop into this one, and hopefully I can finish it fairly quickly because I am also hoping to at least start the Sherlock Holmes short story collection. So anyway, I'm really excited to get into this one, so let's get started. It is time for a mid-book update for The Story Life of A.J. Vickery. I am 128 pages in, so about halfway. I have about 130-ish pages left. So far, this book is so cute. I'm really, really liking it. I wasn't expecting the timeline to be quite so long. I didn't realize that this book takes place over years just because of how short it is, but apparently it does. But even with it taking place over years, the pacing of the book is actually really nice. This is my first book by Gabrielle Zevin, and I can honestly say I really like her writing style. So we're just getting into the romance part of the book. At least I think it turns into a romance part. I'm not actually sure. I kind of went into this one completely blind. So we'll see what happens, but it seems really cute so far. I'm really enjoying it. I know the end is supposed to be a little bit heartbreaking. So we'll see what I end up rating it when I finish it. But I think so far, I would definitely recommend this to people as just like a really sweet, heartwarming novel. But again, that's depending on how heartbreaking it is at the end. So anyway, so yeah, that's my update for this book. I also started How to Read a Book last night as well. I only got one chapter in, and I have to say that the vibes are a little bit different than I was expecting, but that doesn't mean that it's not good so far. In fact, it's really good so far. And despite the fact that it's a read that takes a lot of concentration in order to make sure that you're soaking it in the information, it actually reads pretty quickly. So I was definitely not expecting that, and it was a very pleasant surprise. So I will not be finishing this book in this vlog. It is way too long, and I want to make sure that I prioritize starting Sherlock. So that is that. So those are my updates on both of these books. Hopefully I will be able to finish this book today. I have a little bit of a tighter schedule tonight, so I'm not 100% sure I'll be able to finish it tonight, but I will be finishing it tomorrow at the latest because I want to try to get at least the first short story of Sherlock in this vlog. I am ready to jump back into it because I am invested. I think those are all my updates for now. I am going to try to read a little bit before I have to go tonight. So yeah, I will see you guys when I finish The Story Life of AJ Fickery. I kind of wish I had The Story Life of AJ Fickery on audiobook so I could listen to it while I'm fixing dinner and stuff, but I don't. I just finished The Story Life of AJ Fickery, and I really like this book. It's so cute and heartwarming. This was absolutely the perfect fall read in my opinion. It's so short and it's so just sweet and heartwarming, and I love it. I would definitely recommend this novel. There's nothing crazy about it. It's not high stakes. In fact, it's crazy low stakes. It's literally just the story of AJ's life, but it's so good. It's so well written. This is my first book by Gabrielle Zevin, and I can honestly say her writing is really good. I see why people really enjoy her writing. So I highly recommend. I'm probably going to give this book a 4-star. My only complaint about this book is actually funny because it's the thing that made me want to read this book for this particular video, and that it's just too short. Like, there were certain parts of the book and the story where I would have loved to see more details and have the story expanded, and she just kind of like summarized and glossed over them. And I'm a little sad about that because I loved the characters and I loved her writing, and I would have loved to see her expound on that a little bit more. But in the end, the length of the book didn't necessarily take away from the impact of the story. It was just, I love the characters and her writing so much. I would have loved to have more details of the story, like I said. Anyway, that's The Story Life of AJ Fickery. If you are not a huge fan of literary fiction, or if you're not sure where to start with literary fiction, I would definitely recommend starting with this book. Now we're on to the last story that we are going to read in this vlog, because it's not a whole book. That is the first story, A Study in Scarlet, out of the Sherlock Holmes collection. I started this last night before bed, and I'm 20 pages in, so I have 100 pages left, and I'm on chapter 3. I love this. This is so much fun. If you have not read the original Sherlock Holmes stories, but you love the BBC Sherlock Holmes like I do, I absolutely love the BBC Sherlock Holmes, then I would highly recommend reading this book. Of course, this book was written in the 1800s, the late 1800s, so it's not the modern Sherlock that the BBC shows, but I am absolutely loving this. I'm only only 20 pages in, so we haven't really even gotten into like the first mystery yet, but it's so much fun. I am having a blast with this book, and of course I'm picturing the BBC Sherlock and Watson while I'm reading it, so that just makes it even more fun because I already have a connection to the characters and to the story, even though I haven't actually read the original story yet. So we're going to be finishing this book probably today because it is going by so fast and I am having so much fun and I cannot wait to just dive into it more. So let's get started. Watching the BBC Sherlock Holmes has enhanced this reading experience so much. I can picture exactly the expressions and the kind of shots they would film for it and everything, and it just makes me appreciate the adaptation of the BBC Sherlock even more than I already did. They did such a good job. I just finished A Study in Scarlet, the first short story in this massive Sherlock Holmes collection, and it was so good. Maybe it's because I already love Sherlock, but I was so into this book. I am so excited to continue reading it. Parts of it are obviously really old-fashioned, like the fact that they had horse-drawn carriages and they didn't have things like DNA tests or even ways to test to see if old stains were blood or mud or whatever the case may be. It's interesting to see how detective work happened before all these new technologies came out. I mean, in the first chapter, Sherlock is inventing a solution that reacts with blood but not with other substances such as mud or grease. So you can tell what old stains were, which I thought was super interesting that like that's where they were when he wrote this book. But anyway, if you like Sherlock, you need to actually read the Sherlock Holmes collection. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I'm so excited to continue this book. Hopefully I will finish it by the time that October ends, so it will be completed in my fall TBR. But if not, honestly, I'll probably just keep reading it until it's done into November because this is just so much fun. I'm having a great time. I highly, highly recommend. So that's it for today's video. We did it. We finished 3 books and we started 2 more, which is a lot. That's way more than I was expecting to read. So I'm so excited that we were able to do that. I'm not quite 100% caught up because I only finished 2 books that were on my fall TBR. So now I'm up to 5 books that I finished on my fall TBR. But with starting Sherlock and starting How to Read a Book, those really helped me get going so that in October I will be able to finish everything on my fall TBR. Hopefully. Just to recap a little bit on what we read. So starting with Animal Farm, I ended up giving this book a 3-star. It's a classic for a reason. I personally like 1984 better. So if you want to read George Orwell, I would maybe start with Animal Farm if you are a little bit intimidated by him. But I personally think 1984 is a lot better. So definitely read that one. Then we move to Forgotten God by Frances Chan. I'm giving this one 4 stars, but like I said before, you really have to be in the right mindset in order to get anything out of this book. If I was not in the right mindset to soak in information about the Holy Spirit, then I probably would have rated it like a 3-star or 2.5 star. So again, where you're at in your spiritual walk and what the Lord is teaching you in the moment is very important when deciding if you're going to pick up this book or not. But I gave this one a 4-star. Then we moved on to the sweet, sweet, sweet storied life of AJ Vickery. I love this book. I'm giving this a 4.25 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It's definitely not up there on the 5-star read, but it's so good. I highly recommend it. And like I said before, if you're trying to get into general fiction, but you're intimidated by it, this is an excellent book to start at. It is so good. It is so wholesome. There's nothing not to like about it. I really love this book. Yeah, 4.25 stars. We also started How to Read a Book by, I can never get these people's names right, Adler and Doran. I'm just going to say their last names. So far, this book is quite good, I think. Still actually fairly easy to read considering the type of book that it is. It was written in the 1940s, I believe. So yeah, very information heavy. I am 30 pages in right now, and I'm hoping to get at least another 20 pages in tonight. So far, so good. We'll see how it goes later into the book when it gets a little bit more into depth and a little less of the introduction into what they're actually trying to teach us. And then lastly, we read the first short story in the Sherlock Holmes collection. And I know I just reviewed this one, but again, this is so good. If you like Sherlock at all, I am begging you to read this. It is so good. If this book continues on the way that it is, then I will probably end up giving this volume a 5 stars. That's how good it was. I am absolutely just eating it up, loving it. So yeah, we'll see how this one ends, but so far it's absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys had a good time. Please comment down below with what you are currently reading and if you have read any of these and what your thoughts on them were. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful week and I will see you guys next time.